Welcome everyone. Friar Tuck here, my epoch. And oh wow, it looks like we got somebody here and I've already got some likes. All right, and go ahead and say hi in chat if you haven't already. This is gonna be kind of open mic. It's my birthday today. Um yeah, 43 years ago today I was born. So so I have a born on date. I never became native. I'm just like something that comes out of a factory. I had a born on date. But anyways, today is my birthday, and I figured who better to spend my birthday with than to invite some friends into chat and to be able to have a good time. So here, while I wait for people to show up and stuff like that. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, man. Much appreciated. Today, so I was gonna do it at 9:05 a.m. because, thanks. Let's see, Marfish guy. Thanks, much appreciated. So I was going um, to do it at 9:05 a.m. because that was actually what time I was born, Central Time even. So I'm in the right time zone and everything. But the guy I've been trying to get an interview with to talk about like homeless outreach and stuff like that. He wanted to do it this morning because this is when they do their food bank, and so I got to interview him. But because Sam and I we woke up at like I don't know, like we woke up at 6 o'clock, 5:45, 6 o'clock, and like it was like an hour to walk there because it was about 2 miles or so, and I wanted to stop for a cup of coffee before we got in there, and then it was kind of running, and Sam didn't get her playtime or anything else like that, so she started spazzing out, and she doesn't do well around large crowds, anyways, especially when people start crowding her. She starts getting rambunctious and stuff like that, and so I decided to take a rain check on the ride along, but I'm actually going to turn the video into a two-parter. So for those of you that are interested in maybe doing something like this to thanks Ian, to be able to help the homeless and feed the homeless. And one of the things I really liked about the interview was that it was very authentic. Most if you guys watch like the John DeCarmine interview, you'll see where it's his answers are scripted. He's well polished. He spins and does all that stuff because he's used to doing interviews with media. And me, I mean, I'm no Tucker Carlson, but I do ask some tough questions, and he fielded them just right, and it was kind of interesting. But one word of advice: if anybody ever asks to interview you, don't try and control the interview, because the thing is they've already got the idea. You're just one of the pieces in a larger picture that they're trying to paint. So because that's the one thing that seems to anytime I try and interview somebody, they try and take control of the interview, and I've learned how to overcome that, but it's still a pain in the ass. So word of advice: if anybody ever wants to interview you for their channel or for news or anything else like that, understand that they already have an idea in mind. I gotta go. Bullshit here at work that I need to fix. Have a great day. Well, hey, I will see you later this evening then, Jeremy. You go fix that. And hey, Emily, nice to see you as well. All right. So, and thank you to everyone who's wishing me a happy birthday today. Today is open mic. You can ask me any question, and anything that you want to know about living out here. But I will tell you that I'm going to put the unfiltered interview. I'm going to put it. I think I'm going to do it as for everybody that's behind it. Remember, if you're not getting him a gift, you could at least hit the like, subscribe, and comment. Yes, that is very true, Jeremy. And in the subscribes and the likes and the comments, those help me go up in the algorithm, and that's how I get paid, and it doesn't even cost you a dime. So the more you guys engage with my content, the more YouTube sees that as a good sign and then pushes it out so that I can get a wider view of people being exposed to my content. It's not for everybody, but there are people out there that this would be valuable for them in one form or fashion. And I'm finally starting to do good this month. I've already got 20,000 views, which that's a really good. I was lucky to get 15,000 views, and then like over the last 2 months, I'm getting like 20 and 30,000 views. So that's actually really really good. But as far as that interview goes, though, I'm going to put for paid members only. I'm going to put the unfiltered interview, the whole thing with me. You'll hear me in the background asking the questions, and you'll hear the banter back and forth and stuff like that, so that you can get a true take on what's going on. But I'm going to edit this into a 2-part series. So on the 5th, because he's going to be out of town for a couple weeks, and it's like, I've been looking at the weather and going, this weather crap. It's we have these cold fronts that are still coming in even this late in the year. For Florida, I mean, by this is a late cold front even for this area. Hey, thanks Amethyst. Is this? Oh, happy birthday on the Friday. Thanks Rugsy. And hey, thanks for your comments. For those of you that see these jack wagons in the comments and you say something, I got to say I appreciate those of you that do that, because here's the thing about YouTube. I like it, but I don't like it. Is that you have to be able to talk about controversial things in order to be able to bring out all these views. It's just the way it is, because people want to be able to have some sort of argument or something along those lines. Hey Lon, high five back to you too. People want something like that, okay? And so that's going to bring in the people. Or if you give them a really compelling question. And so these trolls that are out there that are saying and doing these things, on one hand, it's like, it's annoying. I mean, do you not have better class than this? I mean, did your parents not raise you properly? I mean, what's wrong with you? You wouldn't talk to your parents like that. You wouldn't talk to somebody like that in their face, but yet you could be a keyboard warrior and say some of the meanest and dickish things that I've ever heard. And, it's okay, fine. For me, I've had to learn how to just have a thick skin, let it roll off my back. I've have to teach myself. I don't have to explain myself. There is a group of you, and those are generally the you that show up in my to my live streams, or those of you that that comment on my videos and all that stuff. You guys are the ones that matter, and you guys are the ones. Can give your opinion as to why many stay outside past from hypothermia. When I was homeless 10 years ago, I never felt a cold with just my sleeping bag, even when it was below 32. Yeah, I can answer that, Emily. So why people stay outside past from hypothermia. Okay, so there's a couple of things. So you need to have, when it gets cold out, especially when you start getting like below 40 degrees, if you pull that bag over your head, which I do, everybody does it. It's just a natural instinct. You're trying to get away from the cold, and it gets to a point where it's so cold that even a light breeze takes all that heat out of your bag. So you're trying to close up in your bag. That's why you want to make sure that like with the 35-degree bag that I have, I make sure to bring it all the way up to the neck, because there is a drawstring that will allow me to do that. But sometimes, when it gets really cold, I'll pull the hood over me and close that up, and then I'll put that, but I still leave a little bit of a vent, okay? And the reason why is because when you breathe, and this is why I can't have Sam in the sleeping bag with me, because her breathing is so hot that it like condensation starts piling up real quick. Okay, with me and the way that I nose breathe, and that I shallow breathe partially because I'm a smoker, and when you get to that sleeping stage, but she breathes heavier, okay? But with me just being in the sleeping bag by myself, I don't really get that much condensation, but the average person does, especially if you're a mouth breather, because that's kind of where a lot of the condensation really comes from. And then you get that in there, and then that counteracts all the cold, and so all of a sudden your body temperature drops. Or like when I would have Sam in my sleeping bag with me, I would just kind of use it as a blanket, and I'd have her cuddle up to me. But in the middle of the night, she would get warm, and she would get out of the sleeping bag, drag the sleeping bag off me. I'd wake up, it's 30 degrees outside, 27 degrees. I'm cold, and I'm pissed because she dragged the sleeping bag off of me. Okay, so there are things. If it rains, and your gear gets wet. Wetness and cold are probably two of the biggest reasons why people would have issues with hypothermia, pneumonia, respiratory infections, anything like that. That's why wetness is so bad when you're outside. Like that's your biggest obstacle that you have to overcome. I could deal with the cold. It was 37 degrees last night. I can deal with it. Sam can deal with it. Because it's warm during the day. There's direct sunlight. So when it's cold and there's no clouds, first thing you do is you go bask in the sun. It may be 50 degrees or 45 degrees, but that direct sunlight, you're sucking it in, and it's warming up your core and kind of helping you thaw out. Okay, and what a lot of people end up doing is, because they want to get away from the rain, so they go in their tent and they're in that shade. Well, that all that does is just keeps the cold in there longer. And instead of getting out there and actually getting in the sun and letting the sun be what warms you up, a lot of people stay in their tent and freeze their ass off. Okay, so that is in a nutshell why I think, that's why I think that a lot of people would have an issue. Because I mean, my sleeping bag, yeah, it keeps me warm, but if for some reason I get wet, because here in Florida, the dew point, um, uh, I'll answer that in a minute. The dew point here is so high that the outside of your sleeping bag, unless you have some sort of cover, even when I do my hammock, that's why I always put the tarp up, especially here in Florida, because you'll wake up with a thin coat of dew all over your sleeping bag. And that in itself counteracts all of the heating mechanisms that you need for your sleeping bag, because if it gets wet, it's useless. Okay, and so like here in Florida, that's a big issue. And so if you're not under cover of something, even the canopy here will prevent a lot of the condensation. Now we get some on the ground tarp that I use, but but that's underneath us, and that's because we're warmer than the ground. Okay, so that's another reason. So I was asked a question. Don't worry about idiots, bro. You're probably doing better than them. Maybe. Do you get fire going at night? When we get out west, the fire thing is going to be a bigger deal because of the wildfires that go on. I do a fire, but it doesn't stay going long enough, and I don't want to make a super huge fire, because then I got to wait for it to die out. And if a spark comes and something like that, plus the way that I put my tarp up, it's kind of hard to get heat in there, and I'm not going to build a little fire underneath my hammock, because then I might burn up in it. So fire is good if you're outside and you're out in the elements before you get into bed. But once you get into bed, your sleeping gear should be what it is it should be what's keeping you warm. And if your sleeping gear isn't going to keep you warm, then you got the wrong sleeping gear, or you're not prepared. Okay, it sucks to be that direct, but it's really that direct. I mean, that's why I spent the $35 on, instead of, because I originally tried to go. It's like, okay, well, it's not going to get that cold. I'm going to go buy the the 50 degree. I'm gonna do the 50 degree sleeping bag. Well, you know what? It was too big for the hammock, and it was too big to carry. It like took up 80% of my sleeping bag, like my double XL one. So I went up to it, but technically we could, the 50 degree sleeping bag would be perfectly fine, but it just takes up too much room. And that's why I went to the 30 degree sleeping bag. But if it were going to be colder than that, I would have gone to the -10 sleeping bag. I don't care that it's red, because I'm covered up in green, because my underquilt works that way, and it doesn't take up that much space in your bag. Your sleeping gear, it's going to take up a lot of space, but you need to minimize the space, and that's part of the reason why, one, I don't use stuff sacks, and two, I make sure that I put things in the order in which I pull it out. But somebody asked me about sleep systems, and tomorrow is when I get paid from YouTube. Hopefully, they pay me between the 21st and 26th. I expect to get paid tomorrow. Let's hope. And then my food stamps will be here either tomorrow or Friday, hopefully. So I will, once I get to a point where I can get to a place to charge. because I, like a dumbass, I didn't go in there and check the plugs in the McDonald's that we went to this morning. I'm seeing plugs. I'm like, okay, they work. Well, no. Most of these fast food restaurants now are turning their plugs off, and you have to go to specific ones to be able to get a charge on your phone. That's why we usually come up here to the Burger King. But I wanted to. Burger King's coffee is really expensive. And everything at Burger King is expensive, but you know what? You also get power. The $5 duo, which I just didn't have enough money for today, would have been what I normally get, because then I could sit there and I actually get the bang for my buck. So anyways, let's see here. A little firebox. I don't know about that. I honestly, I guess because I'm from the West Coast originally, we're kind of, it's not that we're scared of fire, it's just that we're very cautious around fire. And, my mom was a big thing, because, people would fall asleep with cigarettes in their, and burn their mattress. I knew plenty of people that actually burned holes in their mattress because they fell asleep with a cigarette in their hand and things like that. So growing up, my mom was really big on the paranoia of fire. And, we always had a fire, but it was always in a controlled, because we had wood burning stoves and stuff like that. But you still had to be careful and make sure that you kept things, in case sparks fly when you open it and stuff like that. If you pass through anywhere near Portland, I have several emergency wool blankets and sleeping bags, also collecting gear. I volunteer for outreach here, so I can. Okay, yeah. Let me, Emily. That's cool. So you do outreach there in Portland. I hear Portland has turned into the Wild Wild West. It's nothing like what it used to be. I remember when they first put in that day center there right across from the train station, and I think they took the Greyhound station out of there too. So, and then that's kind of like when the homeless in Portland seemed to go down. So I've been doing some research. I asked around about like them bringing a no barrier shelter in here to Pensacola. Apparently they've tried several times, but the statistics show that it's not that good of an idea. So, maybe John DeCarmine will come here, but he probably isn't going to win over the city council here. That's my opinion. And okay, so here's what's going on, and so that you guys understand why I'm standing up and I'm saying the things that I'm doing. Houston, I think, reduced their overall homelessness by 60%. And they did a specific system, and they did it. They did what, as politicians call, a comprehensive system. Okay, so what they did is they had a low barrier shelter. Okay, so now all these places are like, we want to do a low barrier shelter. Then they had rapid housing. Okay, and the rapid housing works, but you got to have space, and you got to have either money or infrastructure for that housing. Okay, and I believe that's also where like the whole tiny home thing comes from. So now they're housing people. Most of these people that they're housing, because even Gainesville, yeah, we've reduced homelessness by like 40%. Yeah, because most of those people were collecting Social Security, and you put them into a place where they're able to network together. Now 3 of them are sharing a 3-bedroom apartment because that's the only way that they can survive on like the $800 or $1,000 a month that they get. It's crazy. And so, like, they're using these stats, but they're cooking the numbers, and they're saying that people are getting housed. When you get to a point where you can house somebody that does not have a job, that does not have a drug addiction, but just needs a little bit of stability to get back up on their feet. When you get to that point, then I'll say, okay, we need to look at your system and see how you're doing. But none of these cities are doing that. They're cooking the stats, they're cooking the numbers, and saying this is what we're doing, and this is how we're having success, because they're saying that we're doing this, and this is our numbers. But the reality is that a lot of the people that they're housing, a lot of the people that they're getting off streets, they're either putting them in shelters, and most of those shelters are more dangerous than being outside. And then or what they're doing again is housing those that get a check. But again, those that don't get a check really have no ability to be able to get out. And those that don't get a check are actually the ones that will be able to go and contribute to the system the most. Okay? Because here's the thing. If you're not getting a check for disability because you don't qualify for disability, then you have the ability to be productive. Whether you take advantage of the digital economy or you go out into the traditional economy that we've been dealing with for the last 100 years. It doesn't really matter. you're gonna, at that point in time, you become a contributing member of society. I owe, because of the amount of money that I made last year, and because I'm considered self-employed, I owe $158 in taxes for my Social Security and Medicare. Okay, that way I could qualify. If it actually makes that far, because I've met a guy out here that he only got half the credits, and he gets like $400 a month, and he's like 70 years old. And it's like, well, you'll get something, but you're not going to get a lot. If I buy one of these stickers, does that go to you or to YouTube? So if you want to send me money, this is how I'm going to answer this in a twofold, Emily. Is If you do like a super sticker or a super chat, YouTube gets 30%. So for every $10 you send, I get 7, and then I don't get it until payday, which anything made this month, I won't get paid in until March. Okay, or you could go through PayPal, which is down in my tip jar. PayPal will take about 10 or 15% total when YouTube will, or excuse me, PayPal will charge me about 15%. Now, if you go through Cash App, it's basically I pay 25 cents for every $10 that you send me to put it in my account. Cash App is the most effective, but most people feel comfortable doing PayPal, which actually, out of all of the fees, and both of those come to me instantly versus waiting through the stickers. So however you choose to do it works for me, but I'm just letting you know that that's kind of how it works. So if I buy one of these stickers, okay, trying to tip, but it just gave me stocked to buy. Okay, the tip jar is down in the description. You'll see one. It'll say tip jar, and it'll say PayPal, and then it has my Cash App. So it should all be down in the description. So if you hit the more button down there in the description, that's where you'll see it. Okay, but that's the easiest way. Like if you guys want to tip me or leave me something like that, or get something to me quickly, you got to go through my tip jar. Otherwise, I don't get paid on it till the next month, and YouTube takes 30% of everything that comes in, including the ad revenue. Which, I mean, I don't mind on the ad revenue, but it kind of sucks with the super chats and stuff like that. But anyways, off of that subject, But anyways, that's my Cash App is hashtag FriarTuck81. So is what it should be. But you'll see it down in the description. But anyways, if you really want to fix homelessness, you can't. Here's the honest truth of all this, okay? And it sounds inhumane, it sounds bad, it sounds all this stuff. But if you really want to be able to fix, homelessness, what you've got to do is you kind of, those that have been out here that are in the drug addiction, you got to let them go. Okay, I had a guy today try and explain to me how everybody that comes out here is coming out here by choice, and I think that there's some truth in it, but I think it's slanted, and there's a lot of other things that are playing into that. Okay, but the reality is that those that are the fentanyl users, the Molly users, the crackheads, and stuff like that, they have the opportunity, if they want to get off the streets by going into a rehab program and so on and so forth, but they don't want to. Okay, so why do you want to spin your wheels, waste your money, waste your resources on people like that? You have the new homeless that are coming out. Those are the people. If you want to fix homelessness, you don't work on the existing problem, you work on the contributors to the problem, which the first thing is when somebody comes homeless for the first time, you need to, and this is what they're starting to find out statistically even, is that it costs the system less to pay your rent for 3 months and help you get a job than it is to give you these continuous services through the homeless shelter because of the high costs of all of these not-for-profits. Okay? So, I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. Okay? And so if you sit there and if you educate people and say, okay, because this is what 211 has the ability to do. So if for those of you that don't know anything about homelessness, or don't know how to find resources, and it's when you call it based upon your geographical location of your phone, it will patch you through to the closest 211 call center. Okay, and if you need something that they don't have an answer to, they will give you the number to the local county one that they have in that area. But 211 will give you resources, everything from rental assistance, food banks, but they don't really they'll give you shelters, but they don't know where the food lines are. And I think that that's probably one of the most important things that 211 can give you. Say, look, here's where all the bum feeds are. And they feed this time, this time, and this time. You have to hunt and peck around, and usually you just go to one of the shelters and find out. But then they kind of look at you crazy if you don't use the right jargon for them, because I may call them a bum feed or a food line. They'll call it a soup kitchen. Well, you know what? Apples and tomatoes, whatever. But it is what it is. But if you want services, 211, and I think that 211 should also be a main source to be able to instantly, like, if you're about to face an eviction, one of the first things you're going to want to do is, let's say, call 211, which will then probably could get you. It's like, okay, since this is your first time homeless, here's first time homeless case manager, and then you can get on that, and people will be more proactive if they know that they have the safety net to help keep them going. But the thing is most people realize or think that, hey, well, I'm going homeless, there's no safety nets, all I got is a shelter. Well, then that's counterproductive, because the thing is the psychological effects that homelessness takes on an individual, first time to 10th time, is greater each time. It's just like the psychological effects that happen to somebody when they go to jail. Okay, there is some sort of psychological trauma, because it is a break from what the perceived reality that you expected. You never expected to be homeless. You never expected to go to jail, and now you're there. And the psychological break of something to happen to you that you never thought would happen to you it's gonna have its effect. And then once you've been homeless and you've gone through that psychological break, now it becomes easier and easier to become homeless again. It's just like a drug addiction. It becomes easier and easier to do your next hit. The more you do, just like with cigarettes. When I first started smoking at 8 years old, man, I coughed my lungs out. It'd take me a month to go through a pack of smokes. Now I go through a pack of smokes every other day, because I've learned to kind of like keep my smoking down, and that way I don't have that much smoker's hack. But with anything, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And if we really want to stamp out homelessness, we've got to catch it before it happens. We've got to offer the structure. And my personal opinion, if you were to do something that's effective, is that by the time a person is reaching that point of becoming homeless, there's already something psychological going on. Okay. Ian, I think you're right, but you're wrong. Okay, because some people would rather have a roof over their head than money in their pocket. Okay, because that's just the way that we've been conditioned. Okay, but back, hey, what's going on, Bushcraft? Nice to see you. Okay, so back on topic before I get too distracted, is that there is a psychological, there's something psychological going on. One of the greatest things that helped me, thank you, one of the greatest things that helped me overcome homelessness to the point to where people now are looking at me going, you're a fraud, you're not really homeless. It's like, no, I am homeless, but mine is like uncontrollable circumstances, and there's going to be a lot more people coming out for uncontrollable circumstances than there are for the psychological reasons, because the first few times I went out, it was for psychological reasons. Self-accountability is probably the most important thing that an individual can learn. That is part of what puts you where you're at in the first place, because you become dependent, or you have implied expectations, and then when those expectations are not met and you want to blame other people, it becomes much harder to be able to function, because people are like, you're going to blame me for your problems. And so becoming self-accountable is probably one of the most impactful things that I've ever done. And I think that to be able to solve the homeless problem through the case management, you have, and as you're supporting somebody, you have to walk them through self-accountability. Have them understand what it was that they did that contributed to the problem in which they're at. Okay, and if they can find, if and there's always going to be that circumstances. There's an exception to every rule. You're going to find instances where it's like, look, I had no control. We were getting shot at on our way to our appointments. How do you stay in business when you're getting shot at going to your appointments? There is nothing I could do about that. I mean, I could just keep going and just kind of like hope that I duck and that they keep missing me, or I could be smart and be like, I'm not willing to risk my life for a dollar. Okay, because nobody else is willing to risk their life for a dollar unless they're doing it for a patriotic reason, which is going in the police force or going in the military. Okay, so that's that thing. Okay, so I think that in order to be able to affect homelessness and affect it properly, those are the two most important things that you can do. Give a person stability and help them fix what's going on up here. And you know what? We will become a more responsible, a more ethical, a more humane society by making a small change like that. Because, when you start looking at it and going, well, if I do this to this individual, that means somebody else can do that to me. Do I really want somebody to do that to me? No, I don't. So if I don't want to have that done to me and sit there and complain and go, why is everybody being an asshole to me? Well, maybe I should quit being an asshole to other people. Okay? And when you start understanding and seeing the world that way, it changes how you interact with people. Okay. Well, Ian, I'm kind of am an advocate for the homeless with this channel, but the right people have got to listen to me and say, hey, Tuck, we would like you to come here, because I've tried to go up against the homeless industrial complex. They don't want me. I challenge I challenge their point of view. Maybe I can influence those that are administering the homeless a little bit at a time. Maybe they can see things from my point of view and maybe try to implement it. But at the end of the day, nobody really wants the change. They want to complain about the problem, collect money for it, make you feel sorry for it, and not really fix what's going on. So it's hard to get off the streets in Portland through the programs, but there are so many resources here. I feel if I do finally lose my housing, I'll be able to survive here compared to other places. Well, yeah, I could see that. Housing first does a lot. And again, these cities are realizing that it is cheaper to take care of you before you go homeless than it is to take care of you while you're homeless. Okay. And Ian, I just answered your question. I mean, I would love to be an advocate for I'd like to really be able to affect change for the homeless, because I think I have a lot of good ideas. But again, it's when you're fighting the homeless industrial complex, there is no win. There is no win whatsoever. It sucks, but that's just the way it is. Because if you say, hey, we could fix this and homelessness could be out in 1 to 2 generations, if we learn how to do it now and just kind of administer to those that are left out here. Because, I mean, you still got to be humane. And I think that this is really what the Houston system was doing, was they realized that they had to leave the ones that are already down here and broken. They had to leave them behind and work on the new homeless. And that's why the low barrier shelters are in there. But these cities are not understanding the purpose of it and why they're there, because in 1 to 2 generations, those shelters will not be there anymore. There will be no need for it, because we will have phased homeless out. Those that were lost causes will have finally died off, and the social safety nets are there for rapid rehousing and yada yada yada, to make sure that these people stay in their homes and at least have some way to be able to get back up on their feet without having to go through the psychological trauma of a capitalistic society. Okay. But the thing is people are looking at it and go, oh, well, this is what they did, not understanding the methodology and the ideology behind what it is that they're doing. Because I could see that would be a part of your methodology and your ideology, but that's just assumptions, because I wasn't in that decision room. But I could see that if I was going to do something that is going to be effective, this is what I would do. And I think it's smart, but it's not. If all you're doing is just replicating it without understanding the ideology behind it, you will never be successful. And then they'll say, well, we tried it, it just didn't work. The Houston model works for Houston, but not for us. Well, yeah, because you didn't get into their ideology and their methodology. Okay, so does anybody else have any more questions for me regarding what's going on? Because and hey, if any of you guys want to send me birthday money, everything's down in the description. I want to say thank you to those of you that do. You could also do super chat, whatever you want to do. Either that or just leave me a comment and share this on all of your social media, because that will help me get the views in which I need to get. Okay, but with everything that's there, I just homelessness can be fixed, but you have to have the will and you have to have the understanding. And when and we got to understand that there is an ugly side of capitalism. That in order for there to be scarcity, you have to have those without. In order for there to be to be luxury, there has to be those without. Okay, if we didn't have 3 to 5 million homeless right now, housing values would not go up. Well, there's not enough housing, so the value so we can keep raising it because there's scarcity. Okay, you all of a sudden house all the homeless and you end homelessness. Well, what is that going to do to the housing value? Um, Actually, yes, it does. Just because of all the decay. So, and then also Sam decided to roll in a dead possum. It's disgusting. So, but I just this is just my thought on it. That it would do away with so much that we would actually it would turn America back into what it was that we used to value, which is the ability to have dignity while pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Immigrants used to come here and say that our streets were paved with gold. Not that they were actually paved with gold, but what they were saying is that there was so much opportunity because you didn't have to have all these things, a house, a car, you got to pay for insurance and all this, and you got to start off in the negative just to be able to go get a job, and then maybe that job will give you enough hours and enough pay to be able to dig yourself out before you start affording the basic things that you need outside of what society requires you to have. Okay, and this is I think where our country has gone down. I saw a guy today. I'm like, you know what? This is the problem with America. I'm gonna sit there and complain about all the rules that I want followed because nobody's following them. But I'm not gonna follow the rules that I don't think I should follow because I'm free and I can do whatever I want. And then I'm gonna wrap myself in the flag and say I want freedom and the Constitution. How much of a hypocrisy is that? I mean that's not irony. That's an oxymoron. It's like, yeah, let me stand here and cry freedom while I sit there and try and dictate how somebody else lives, and then talk about how my rights are being trampled. Okay, and that's really that's why we need self accountability right there. Is because we as a country have gotten so off kilter. We believe the lies that we're being told. You're free. You could do anything you want. No, a man on a desert island has no rights. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, what is a man on a desert island having no rights? What the hell does that mean? What that means is that in order to have a right, there is a corresponding duty and obligation. In order for me to be able to speak freely, I cannot, raise hysteria like yelling fire in a movie theater. Okay, but I can sit there and tell what's going on and say, look, this is what's going on. And I have to be able, not only for me to be able to have that right, I also have to respect somebody else's right, whether I agree with them or not, whether they agree with me or not. That is their right to speak freely. That is my right to speak freely. And it doesn't matter whether or not we agree. But the thing is what we're saying is I have the right to speak freely and I don't like what you're saying, so now I'm going to tell you to shut up. Okay, and that is the hypocrisy. And then they want to wrap themselves in some political party, wrap themselves in the flag, wrap themselves in the Constitution, and it's stupid. Okay, and this is why our country is falling apart, is because we lost the ability to be accountable to oneself. And those that are the least accountable to oneself, because it's all benefits, no obligations, this is the people that end up homeless, because nobody can tell me what to do. I can do whatever I want, but I'm going to complain if somebody doesn't give me what I want. Okay, so it's like innocent until proven guilty. It's the other way around: guilty until proven innocent. Okay, some people are just tired of being wage slaves to a corrupt government. Okay, so let's see here. Happy birthday! Thanks, Melody. Okay. Happy. Thanks, outdoors. Okay. So, and thanks, Emily. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, guys, it's getting to be that time. My battery really isn't staying that well, and Sam's starting to bark at everything that goes on around here. So, I got to deal with her. But anyways, guys, you know how to help the channel. Like, subscribe, share, become a member of Patreon, leave me a tip down in the tip jar. Make sure you share this with everybody. And leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.